Daniel Ruhweza. I teach law at Makerere University. My mother is a nurse, retired nurse actually. She started the School of Nursing at Uganda Christian University, Jimmy Mtavazi. I also taught at UCU. In those days, we used to teach some of the classes under the big mango tree at the main campus at Mukono before this campus here was created. I'm a married man. I've been married for a very short time, only 2 decades this September. I started dating in my 2nd year at campus, and we dated for 7 years. So the things I'll be telling you, yes, the things I'll be telling you will be based on that experience. My wife Claire is an architect. She sends you her love. She knows that I'm here. We have been blessed with 1 boy. That's the last born. But before that, I have 3 girls. Yeah. I'm happy to be here.
So we just a few minutes as Miss Raboni comes in. She's coming in a few minutes, yeah. But a bit more to lighten up the mood. So friendships, the number of people in this room is telling a lot of information. So yeah, friendships. We're going to start with friendships, and I'm going to be asking them a few questions, but mainly for the ladies. I'm coming from the ladies' side, right? So questions from the ladies will be passed through me. So throughout the whole session, you'll each if any of you has questions, you write it on a sticky note or send to me. Or if it's really burning you can raise your hand, right? Are we together?
Yes.
All right. So, yes, friendships. Should I start my first question?
Yes.
I should. So my first question is, we know friendships. Last week we had a session with Dr. Wilson's Victoria, right? The head of oncology. She's a specialist there. And we also were joined together with Mrs. Gembe, Janet. And she briefly talked about friendships and said the 5 people you spend the most time with, like you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? So I'll give you a few seconds to think about the 5 people you spend the most time with. I don't know. Are we together? So yeah, so that about friendships. So she talked about how being intentional about your life causes you to have intentional relationships, right? So my first question today is, we go through life having friendships right from primary, right? So my question is, what should the basis of friendship be at this level? Because previously we were friends with people because they looked nice or they had nice things or for what they could do for us, but like we're at a level where life is getting serious and we need people who like stick with us through thick and thin. So what should qualify someone as a friend at this level? Yeah. Anyone who would want to answer this?
All right, I will go fast. What would qualify as a friend depends on who you are as an individual. So I'd like to start from that corner, the corner of who are you and have you discovered who you are? Or do you have a fair understanding of who you are as an individual? What are your priorities? What are your value systems? What is your true north? Anyone have an idea about what the true north is? True north? So I identify true north as your compass. The compass that guides the things that you say, the things that you do, the decisions that you make, your values. That campus, for example, for me is a belief in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And so that becomes the campus that guides my day-to-day activities. When I'm invited here, I come because I am very interested in impacting other people's lives, just as I was impacted. Okay, my campus is what informs my vision, and so the question to you here is: do you have a vision, a personal vision? Before you even talk about friendships, do you feel like you have a purpose in life? And do you feel like you have a mission in life? Or is it the usual thing that we often joke about, and yet it is true, that I just want to grow up, have a good job, get married, build a 3-bedroom house, have 3 children, a nice car, live life, and then I die? Is that all that is about who you are? I don't know if you get what I mean. So if you know who you are as an individual, it then begins to attract you to specific spaces and attracts you to specific people. Because of who I am, I know in one way or another, Nima got to know about me. Because of what I have decided to prioritize in my life. I'll tell you a short story. When I just graduated from law school, I had a beautiful job. Okay, call it handsome. My law firm that employed me gave me accommodation. I had a car loan. I had all the perks that ideally most of us who have just finished school, university would want. You have a job, you have a place to stay, you're not bothering your parents, your bosses have given you a vehicle, you have an allowance, you don't have to look for lunch comes to the workplace, and so on. So everything seemed to be good for me. But my heart kept on yearning because I felt that there was much more to who I was. There was an impact that I wanted to leave in the world. You get what I mean? And so because of that, the kind of friends I have always attracted have been those who identify with me. If you are not sure of who you are, then there is a high tendency to attract every Tom, Dick, and Harry. You don't prioritize. But if you have a fair understanding of who you are, or you have a desire to pursue and get to know yourself a little bit better, it begins to come out. Now, before I started dating, we were a group of about 12 people who were friends because of church and school, boys and girls. We used to hang out at church, go for ice cream, because we kind of liked each other's company. We exchanged the same jokes, and fairly had all gone to schools that, that were schools really. Like my school was the best in the country. My school is Suga College Community. It's the best in the country. Now I don't know about other schools. But anyway, you get the idea. So we were around these places. We used to go for similar activities, movies, and so on. Now, as the conversation begins, that's when the cream begins to rise to the top. At that time, my father was sick. May his soul rest in peace. He had cancer. But of all the people who are hanging around me, my current wife is the one who began to show a specific interest in the health of my father over and above, sorry, Dad. And she surprised me one time and says, I'd like to visit your dad. And I'm like, what? You want to visit him? I said, yes, I'd like to come and visit. Now remember, we are a big group of about 12, 15 people. And of them, one is saying, I want to come and see your dad. You see how the cream begins to rise? So I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. Now when we went, she didn't come galonsa, like they say. She didn't come empty-handed. She carried a pint of milk, a bottle of juice, and so on and so forth. Then you begin to identify there is something about this person that is different. At church, she would not come to church alone. She would come with her siblings, the younger ones. And when all of us are just strolling around and getting hugs and so she's surrounding her, bringing her siblings together to cross the road and go back. I actually remember vividly saying in my mind that this girl is different. Whoever gets married to her will be a lucky man. That is what came to my mind at that time. Little did I know that I was talking about myself, you know. So you begin to see that now. You know, in our conversations, I love to party. So I used to do a lot of birthday parties. And so one time I was struggling to get, okay, we'll do a goat roast. In my time, I'll make you contribute, we do a goat roast. Some will contribute, some will just come to eat. But anyway, someone tells me, by the way, talk to Claire. My wife is called Claire. Talk to Claire. She will do for you what we call food chips. I mean, I didn't even know what food chips were. We are normally used to crisps. So for the first time, I'm introduced to this food crisps idea. I find out my wife had done YMCA catering course and so on, and she does the chips. We get the money, we give it to her, she prepares. No hassle. One day to the party, the girl who was supposed to do the birthday cake pulls out and says, sorry, I'm not able to do the cake, over what happened, blah, blah, blah. And I'm stuck. Again, this girl, my other friend, says, by the way, talk to Claire. She can bake you a cake in one day. So I asked Claire, I hear you can do a miracle with a cake. And she says, yeah, I can, but we will not be able to get icing. I'll do the butter icing and so on and so forth. Man, we had cake. Now, by the time we are done with that birthday party preparations, our conversation had gotten to a different level. I was seeing more sense in her. Because she was aligning, I'm sorry for using the wrong word, I was seeing more value is a better word. She was aligning to what I held dear, to what was priority for me. You get it? She was compliant. And even when she would call me maybe once a week, the conversation was more than just, hi, how are you? Guy didn't see you at church. You know? It was conversation that began to appeal to who I am. I'm intentionally directing our conversation to where we want it to go. Then I started telling her the things I'm passionate about, leadership and so on. She buys me 2 books. One by the speeches by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and another a book about Gandhi. Ask your neighbor, have they ever bought you a book really? So, and then, we're conversing. She used to work at DSTV during her S6 holidays. She used to work there. And, out of our conversation, one time she comes for a Bible study and she has printed out so much information for me. And when I ran through it, it was information on leadership. Now you can see that this is an individual who was beginning to see the things, or who was actually listening to the things that I was passionate about, right? So, in essence, it always starts as a friendship. It's best to have a group of friends around you, 10, 15, and like Jesus, you continue narrowing them down to 4 or 3, In that, you begin to see intentionality and of course there's always the grace of God to help us. But the point I'm making is that out of the people who you easily blend with, there will always be someone who starts to crop up but you must have a fair idea of what your value system is, the things you hold dear. Because even up to today, the people I associate with, in one way or another, need to align with what I hold dear, what I am passionate about. And so that means we can have something to talk about. Otherwise, we always talk about white gender and other people who, and that will make a sentence or two, and then there's nothing more to say. I hope in a long-winded way I've been able to answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. David. Daniel. Okay. I tend to, first and foremost, I think it would have been fair to start by defining what we're talking about. Because we're talking about friendship, what is a friend. We're talking about dating, what is dating. And these days there's a lot of terminology. There's friends with benefits, there's such a thing as that. I wrote so many of them here because I was in my study. Friends with benefits, there are entanglements, there are situationships, all those are terms that we use today to describe how people relate. And I looked at it under one umbrella of relationships. So under relationships, we have all these things that we talk about today. So, but I'll go straight to answer the question. What is the basis of friendships? So in my understanding of friend is, what delineates the line between friendship and dating. One of them is the depth of the connection that you have. Because when you're dating, the connection is deeper. And I look at how people relate using what I call the triad and personal mode. Everybody has a body, they have a spirit, and they have a soul. So in our interactions with people, it is those elements of our individuality that actually interact. Okay? And our soul has our mind, it has our will, it has our emotions. So it is those different facets of the individual that interact. And this kind of resonates with what Dr. said earlier. When you understand yourself in those dimensions, then you kind of center yourself or anchor yourself in a position where you are able to interact meaningfully with other people in different fronts, in terms of friendship or dating. So I look at friends, I divide my friends into three dimensions. They are seniors, they are peers, and they are juniors. Okay? So, and after understanding where you're coming from, understanding what you want, understanding your purpose, setting your boundaries, and laying out your priorities, that's the very first thing. You now go ahead to interact from a position where you know what you're doing or where you are. So, seniors, purposely, these are people that mentor you, people that lift you up, people that kind of give you a picture of what they've seen, people that have shared their experience with you. So I tend to look at people I interact with like that. And this is not to say that every individual that I have in my life is strictly a senior. You find that someone teaches you or mentors you in one aspect, but then in another dimension, you teach them something also, okay? Then peers. We have peers. Now these are people that, for example, if I'm to give an example of a setting like this one, maybe your classmates, colleagues, whereby, depending on the subject in question, you are like on the same front. So interactions with peers also, take kind of different dimensions. Then there are juniors, because you cannot always say. I don't believe in the notion of saying interact with people who are at the same tempo with you, because there are people that are your juniors, people that you're going to have to lift up, people that you're going to have to teach, something. So, in summary, the basis for friendship, one, I agree, is center yourself, discover yourself, anchor yourself, in that dimension. Your emotions, emotional awareness. What kind of person are you? I wish I could illustrate this. Okay? So just to say that again, body, spirit, soul. Soul is your emotions, your will, and your mind. Now the issue of interest is centered within your mind. Okay? What things do you like? What are your hobbies? So as you're interacting with people based on like shared hobbies, it's actually interaction of your minds. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone here. I don't know if you get where I'm trying to go. Okay? So for me, that is what I believe is the center point of interactions and friendships.
everybody. I want to start off by apologizing for not honoring your time and being a little bit late. Sorry about that. My name is Lisa Kanyimozi Raboni. I am many things from day to day, but I'm a program director for Girl Talk. I'm also a business owner. I'm an author and the CEO of a charity foundation. And that's my introduction for today. So on what's the basis of a long-term friendship? I think my co-speakers have touched on everything I was going to say, but I will mention it from my point. So the three things that I would look at when I'm thinking about a long-term friendship are 1, values, 2, intention, and 3, upbringing. And everyone here has mentioned values. You have to understand who are you as an individual, because we always, there's seasons in our life, say you're in campus, like right after campus, you just got some money. Uganda is about party. So you will meet the people who are just like, hey, where are we? What are you doing? Go now. Slowly as you pass that stage, now your career is important to you, or you want to start a family, or you're looking to grow. This business of going out till 3 a.m., it's no longer constructive. So now that friend is no longer priority in your life because your values have changed. But also you have your underlying values as an individual. Say trust, say love. For example, I don't know if I can be friends with people who don't understand how important love is. Say kindness or community. So things like that. So you understand there are those underlying values, but there are also the values of who am I as an individual? Where do I see myself? What do I want to see within myself? What do I like? My career is important to me, for example. Family is important to me, for example. I don't know if I can be friends with people who those are not underlying values in their lives, because we're going to clash either way. Because if you call me out and I say, no, I'm with my sister, no, you'll see her again. No. This is important for me. The second thing was intention. So you can have friends. Yeah, we've been friends since we're in P1, since we're in S2. And like nothing has changed. Past 10 years of friendship, there's no conversation that has changed. There's no value to it. You can't say, yes, we've been friends for 2 years and we've been able to grow, we've been able to discuss, we've been able to, I've seen that her emotional growth has gone up here, or her mental growth. We're still discussing the same things from S1, but okay, the subject matter has changed, but it's the same KB. You can't start a business with this person, you can't work with this person, you've never done career growth opportunities with this person. It's the same thing. What's the point there? But also intention is because as you grow older, for example, you guys are in medical school. I have friends who have been in medical school, and I know how busy it gets. But the intention of, you know what, we need to spend time and curate and nurture and grow this friendship. That's so important to me, and that's something that I look at. I know Dr. Daniel, mentioned that with his now wife, who said she was intentional about being present in a time of need. In the time when his father was unwell, she made the extra step. That's intention. And then the third thing, upbringing. I was having this conversation with someone yesterday. We usually dance around this fact, but it's honest truth. And upbringing doesn't mean we went to the same posh schools or we sit on the same posh tables. No, you guys can sit on the same table, but have completely different home settings. But upbringing in the sense of how we were raised at home. I remember, I don't know if any of you on Twitter, I'm just going to use relatable things. I think there was a conversation 2 weeks ago about, do we serve service providers food when they are catering to, say, weddings or Mikolo? And I was like, what homes do people grow in? How can someone work for you from 8 till 6? You've not cared to give them lunch? Like, it's something so small, yeah? But there's people who say, how can you serve the help? No. Immediately for me, that's a red flag. So you think about people's upbringing. In their home, what were they taught? Are they willing to unlearn this? And for a lot of people who end up getting married, when their upbringing collide, it's easy for them to not make a home together. For example, in our home, we talk about stuff. And if I have friends who are not willing to talk about things, I think that's a bit there's a bit of madness there. We can't follow through in the sense that we hold each other accountable, but you give people grace. If in your home immediately you've done something bad, no conversation. But people are human beings. In your house, slapping could have been normal. In my house, it's not. So when you slap me because you're angry at me, and tomorrow I'm not talking to you, you're shocked. But then actually, you can sit down and think, you know what? Here, we don't do that. We just discuss things. So upbringing is very important. So those are the three things that hold ground for me: values, intention, and upbringing.
Thank you so much for your contributions. I think we're taking notes. Buy your precious books. Educate. Obviously, be intentional about your friendships, and it starts from knowing who you are as a person, your values. They couldn't have said it in a better way, right? So our next question is going to be coming from the gentleman's side.
Thank you. I'm so sorry to the panelists, but we started a bit late and we have quite a number of questions, and we shall have a Q&A at the end, so I feel like we should try to be a bit faster. There's some questions, the questions in total about 20, we've answered one so far. So I think we shall be combining some, because they've already talked about some. So I should be combining some, and then we have the answers at the end. So from the gentleman, I'll combine 4 questions in a row, because we talked about the second question, that was how to make good friends of substance, and then that aligned with our values. I think that was clear when they were presenting all of them. Third question, your experience with friendships at this stage, how to know that the friendship needs to end, how to maintain friendships, even long distance ones, in bracket, the love language in friendship. Red flags and green flags in relationships, and then when is it okay to cut off relationships? I think those 2 questions, they're a bit similar. And then the last one is, why is it that keeping friendship with guys, okay, let me put it the other way. Why is it that keeping friendships with the opposite gender is a bit easier than keeping friendships with the same gender? Thank you. Oh, okay, let me put it the other way. Why is it that it's easier to be like, for the gentleman, it's easier to keep the friendship with the lady, and the ladies, it's a bit hard to maintain the friendship among yourselves? Thank you.
All right, I'll try to be. There seems to be some disagreement on the question. So feel free to write a piece of paper for clarity. My experience with friendship has been given. I totally agree with my brother that there are different types of relationships that we have, but friendship is slightly different, and maybe I should unpack that. A friend is the person who takes everything, discards the chaff, and keeps what is valuable. That is a friend. Takes everything, discards the chaff, and keeps what is valuable. Meaning that you should ideally be able to call upon your friend at 3 a.m. in the morning, and they should be able to come. Now, most of us have acquaintances, hi and bye. You're right, let's go get a drink, and those are more or less acquaintances. But friendship, as I truly understand it, is a David and Jonathan kind of scenario, whereby the Baganda say, that person can be able to stand in the gap on your behalf. And I know that some men have been able to bond in that way. David had his mighty men of valor who would go and pick water from the well, I think it's called the well of Siloam, are surrounded by enemy camp and bring it to him. Those for me are what I really call friends. But like Ms. Raboni has said, we need to develop and nurture those friendships. My experience has been that it's easier with some people with whom you hold certain values and passions than it is with others. There's a group of friends that I keep trying to bring together, but I have kept on failing to do so. And yet somehow I struggle to let go of them. So to answer your question, sometimes maybe it is the calling on your life to be able to be the glue that tries to bring certain people together, knowing that in case you're not there, maybe they would not do so. What are the red flags in friendships? Well, Nima, are we talking friendships or relationships? Let's be clear. Like, I have a feeling that we are skirting around the issue, but, you know, can I now go the other side? Properly, you know? Yeah, and I don't know how much time you have. We can do the preliminaries until, you know. Anyway, let me do two things. Red flags in friendship is the ability for that individual to be there. If they are not able to be there for you, if they betray you, when you need them the most, they are not available. Selfishness is very key. Amongst the friends that I have, and God knows I have quite a number, there are those I will call when I need financial help. And then there are those who I will not call because they will not help me. There are those who I will call and tell to take charge of my family when I am going out of the country. And then there are those who I will not bother. I remember when I was getting married, I had some of those friends who I was certain they would be there. But I also knew that there were others who I hoped would be there, had planned that they would be there, and they let me down. So it is a going concern. But let's go to this other idea. The truth is, amongst men, when we have built your bond of brotherhood, it is tight. And once it happens, if you're blessed to have brothers, when I say friends, now I'm talking about friends who now become like brothers, who stand in the gap for you. One time I was given an assignment to do. It required that I remove all my phones, switch off the phones, and would not be able to communicate with anybody. I told my wife about it, but somehow she had forgotten. So that day I go for this assignment, I was going to spend the whole night there. So she specifically started calling that band of brothers who she knew they must know where Dan is. They will do all that they can to find where I am. Those are the bands of brothers that I'm talking about. And it's normally not a very big group. You know, it's normally about 4 or 5 individuals that surround you as a man. You know, they are the ones who you will trust with your most innermost secrets. And it's easy to build that relationship if you have some kind of similar value sets, or you can kind of surround yourself with similar ideas. I know that the ladies have a similar portion, and maybe she will speak to that. But let me talk about relationships across the gender. See, they've often said that men are from Mars and women are from Venus, meaning that ideally we have different ways in which we see the world. And therefore developing a relationship with with a girl for the boys and with a boy for the girls is being able, first of all, like I said, being secure in who you are, first of all. Your loved one, your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend is not going to be able to answer everything. This thing of love me, I've never been loved before, you are my chance, you're going to be a burden. You're going to be a burden. And this I tell the guys, we can't handle. In fact, I can think of my past relationships, the girls who have come too heavy on me, wanting all the answers to be fulfilled by me, I have run away. I've run away. Even those who have come and have wanted a love relationship with me, I've run away because we do not have the capacity to be. You see, I'll tell you a story. And one time I go to visit my girlfriend in Africa Hall. And those days I'm a law student, and I think about her throughout the day, so I keep on writing things that I would like to tell her. These days WhatsApp has messed it all up. You by the time you meet everything, you've already discussed it on WhatsApp. So I have my list of things to talk to her about, what has happened, and maybe if I've listened to news, there's that thing I want to discuss. So I go on for about 45 minutes. I am blabbering on about, this is my birthday, this is my loved one, she's the one I want to hang out with. Besides, she had a clean room in Africa. So after about 45 minutes, she's listening, then she says, okay, now talk to me. I'm like, 45 minutes, I came at 6:30. I've been talking to you for, you've been saying your things, now I want you to speak to me. Now, in the beginning, I was like, totally gobsmacked. What does she mean talk to her? But now later on I realized she wants me to be vulnerable. What are my fears? What are my desires? What are the things I'm struggling with? Where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? The thing of opening your shirt in fictional terms and letting her see the real you. Being vulnerable. Because that's where women connect. They don't connect on Russia and Ukraine. That is for us barbarians. Man, we can even fight over it. But for the girls, they want to know deep stuff. Now, boys, we struggle there. And for the ladies here, man, if that's what you want from your guy, pray a lot. That God will help you get that kind of individual. I mean, it took me a lot of time to finally understand what kind of conversations made Claire connect with me. So that I think that is the clincher. Where a lady feels, he likes me, but I feel there is something in him that I have not yet touched. Now, the truth is, like my sister said, our background as men do not normally train us to be vulnerable. We are instead trained to keep your stuff and keep it well. Do not reveal any weakness, any problem, any truth about you. And so you get married to this individual, or you start dating, and this guy becomes a lion. Before he was, a cub, becomes a lion, has a temper, and so on. And like, what is this? What's going on? Why? We have not been trained as, you guys, the ladies have what we call the sengas in Uganda. The auntie who is always there, following you up. Often, I don't know what the situation is like now. For my daughters, I can see that my white sisters are always around, trying to find out what's going on and creating, come home, let us talk, and so on and so on. My son has no one. There's nobody talking to him apart from me. And oftentimes I have to catch myself being too tough on my son. Because that is my, what do you call it? My fallback position. So I have to remember and become vulnerable. I mean, I taught him to hug. Now when he hugs, sometimes I want to say, don't hug me. Then I say, oh no, I taught him to hug. So men need that kind of help. And so you get into this relationship with a guy, you sit for a cup of tea, he's not saying anything. But he has told you he loves you. You know? But oftentimes our action is in fondling and kissing and holding hands. That is how we want to communicate. But that's not what the ladies want. You want to hear our aspirations. The men here, I can tell you with no record of doubt in me, that girls are not even attracted to how we look per se. I mean, of course, you have to look good. Not necessarily how we look, not necessarily how much money we have or that our fathers are giving us at this point, but they are attracted to the vision and the mission, the seed that we carry. And I could see that in my relationships and in the relationships that have failed for some people. That, you see this Nima here, you are not going to impress her with the, I am driving this kind of car. You can't, because the motor car is lovely, you see, and she knows where to buy one when the time comes. So you've got to have a better picture of what you're going to produce. So oftentimes the girl, and the girls, you're free to disagree with me, what I've seen, the girls are interested in where we are going, not who we are at the moment. Because I'll tell you, when I was dating my wife, one time I walked into her room in Africa Hall, and I found that she had binned a bouquet of roses. But of course I was still in the leader, it didn't catch me at that point. She had binned a bouquet of roses. It was Valentine's Day. Mia had come with my Valentine card, which I had drawn myself. I had nowhere to take her. I'm a campus, I have no money. But then she told me, man, there's a guy who's been on my case, but the heart is not there. The heart is not there. He has overtaken me for dinner. I have moved around in circles. I have avoided him. He had ordered this huge bouquet of flowers. I saw it, but you know, at that time you're so naive. Sometimes boys, we can be slow. Actually, no, not we can be. We are slow. So by you guys now, you can see the girls around asking questions. You know, as I was sitting in the vehicle, I was seeing the girls walking. Maybe I failed to see the boys. But the girls, by 18, I mean, you medical students, you know what I'm talking about. By 18, you know, you're focused. For us, 30. They said by 30, we got an hour game together somewhat. Because I can tell you that when I was getting married, that I was not 30, I was much younger. I think there are certain things I never contextualized by that time. You know? So I think what I am saying is that it's good you're asking us these questions. The truth is, when you're dealing with boys, especially your age mates, remember girls, you are thinking like at 100 kilometers per hour about these things when the boys are just chilling out. By the time we now get our act together, that's why you find married men going to bench in girls' halls of residence, because finally we have seen the light. Now, when it comes to friendship, therefore, it's important for you as girls, and I'll talk about the boys, for you as girls to start seeing, when I see this man, you know, he has maybe 5 shirts, if I'm being generous, maybe 3 pairs of shoes. Is he going anywhere? Do you feel, what does your heart say about this gentleman? Do you think do you think he has the potential to go somewhere? When he speaks, do you see some value in him? Does he seem to have a plan? It may not be very well worked out. Does he seem to have a plan? those are the people that you can invest your time and emotional energy in. Otherwise, there are others who honestly you need to give them time to do what? To grow. They are not yet there. So even for when you're talking about why is it that it's easier to make friendships with the opposite sex, I think it's because the girls have a certain mindset, a certain value system, and a certain maturity, which we may not have at that point in time as boys. Now, boys, this doesn't mean there are no exceptions to the rule. It doesn't mean there are no outliers, and it does not mean that we cannot act and work on our game. At Makerere, I do a conversation called manhood versus manliness, or manhood versus maleness, where we begin to speak about these issues. But I've realized I've spoken too long. I apologize.
So, first is on my experience with friendships. Okay, for me, I think one of the things that sits at the core of friendships and most relationships generally is communication. And I also have to point out that there is no one size that fits all. And even when we talk here, we can't come up with a general principle that works across all friendships. So, because people have different expectations, they have different needs, So, I think at the end of the day, it's about how you relate your needs, your emotional needs, in how you resolve conflict. So, I think at the center of friendships is really communication. I also believe in sometimes giving people the benefit of doubt, because we talked of red flags, and I think sometimes we misjudge people, and people go through different phases of life, and different phases of life bring out different sides of us. There's the thing I said that everyone is capable of doing bad. Sometimes it's the environment that presses us and brings out certain traits. If I can take you back to psychology a little bit. I don't know if you remember the principle of id and superego. I mean, these sides of us, sides of our personalities that can come out depending on what environment we're subjected to. So I feel like sometimes we need to understand where people are coming from before you rush to a conclusion and say, this is a red flag, and you run away. And sometimes it actually takes time for you to actually paint a clear picture of what someone really is. So what I'm saying is we should be slow to judge. Sometimes the red flag may not be exactly red. Give people benefit of doubt. Give time to study people genuinely. And sometimes when you're in love, you tend to lose objectivity. And usually for girls, when you are all over this person, you're obsessed with them. Sometimes you're not in the right shoes to analyze and be objective about these red flags or these green flags. So what I'm saying is, give it time. Allow yourself to, study someone objectively. The other thing is about when to end relationships. I don't believe in the principle of cutting people off, discarding this person or the other. What I believe in is more of repositioning people in your life, because I feel like it is your expectations, it is you that places people at different positions, in your life. So if your expectations are not met, you can never tell when someone is going to be useful to you. You can never tell when someone is going to help you. So what I believe in is repositioning people. If I had these high expectations of Phoebe, and maybe I expected Phoebe to be there for me when I need her. I expected Phoebe to answer my call when I call her at 3 a.m. and maybe she doesn't. I think it just calls me to a position of reevaluating, studying, and trying to understand more of what kind of person Phoebe is. The context. I mean, what is she going through? Sometimes you rush and conclude, but you don't know what people are actually going through. So, and when I understand where Phoebe is coming from, maybe I get back to a position of repositioning her in my life. I know maybe I should lower my expectations. Maybe I should, help her more. Maybe she actually needs, my help. So, cutting people off, I don't really believe in that. Love languages. the concept of love languages was born from Gary Chapman's book, Love Languages. Gary Chapman was, I don't know if he still is, but it came from his career, long career, counseling relationships and, married people. So basically the concept, for those of you that don't know, it's just about, the concept is that people have love tanks. Okay? That I have a love tank, she has a love tank, he has a love tank, and that when people speak our love languages, when they do those things that we want them to do, those things that strike us at the core, then they make deposits in our love tanks. That's the principle of love tanks. And it's something I believe in, something I agree with, because you find that sometimes you do certain things for people, and then they don't seem to appreciate the things that, of course there's people that are generally just not grateful, or they just don't have gratitude, but sometimes it feels like you're not hitting the core. And this brings me back, I'm just circling back to communication. Understanding someone's expectations, understanding what works for someone. So communication and love languages. So for example, you talked of 5 love languages: quality time, physical touch, and a lot of those. And so still on communication, it's really just about knowing. Yeah? I should know what Joshua wants. I should know what he expects of me, as in our relationship, in our friendship. Then on the issue of opposite gender friendships, I think it still just comes back to laying down your values and knowing what you want. It will surprise you so much. Many people don't actually know what they want from relationships. People don't even know what they want from friendships. People interact anyhow. Just ask your neighbor. I wish we had time for that. You ask your neighbor, what do they look for in a relationship? People don't know. And Dr. Daniel, Dr. Daniel has been giving us, facts from like 2 decades ago, and you know what happened then? But one of the things that has changed now is we have this whole social media pulse, and this whole social media where people subconsciously absorb information from. So ladies sometimes come to the relationship setting or friendship setting with this preconceived mindset. You have expectations. You expect that your man will give you this, he will give you that. So what I'm saying is, when you get into relationships or friendships, try and discard all the bias that you're bringing to the relationships, okay? And be open to communicate, be open to learn from that person, be open to learn their language, their love languages, so that you can, come to the same point. So discard those biases. And then the other thing about, looking for a man with vision, unfortunately, and this is what I'm talking about, the whole media thing, I think not many girls, not many ladies today will actually prioritize or look at vision in a man as the first thing. And many ladies actually don't even know how to read the vision in a man. Okay? So that's why I'm saying this thing of red flags, instantaneous conclusion. Because I've not pulled up in a Mercedes Benz, to a date. So somehow you kind of do the math, and you weigh a man's pocket based on what it looks like. So what I'm saying is we need to discard bias. We need to filter what we learn and where we learn it from. Okay? Come back to communication. Seek actively from your friends, what they want, what form of help they want, because you can't assume that this one size works for everything. That this is what I want. That's So the best person that can always tell you is that person themselves. Okay? So that's what I think. I think I've answered all the questions.
Thank you so much. I think now we can hear from Venus, since the men have shared quite well, quite knowledgeably as well. And I don't agree in that Mars and Venus thing, but I do know it's nature and nurture. So as Dr. Daniel shared, he's making active and conscious decisions to nurture softness and vulnerability within his son, which not a lot of parents have done, and that's why for a lot of men coming out to speak and share, it's it sounds how? Where do we start? Because it's something that's been nurtured. You've just been let into the world to do. Yeah. Again, the gentlemen have spoken a lot on similar experiences that we all understand. So I'll just give tidbits on where I can feel it. So on love languages, yes, Chapman did share that. And love languages are again just how we understand love. So the top 5: acts of service, gifts, and gifts in terms of gift receiving and gift giving. When people hear gifts, they say, oh my God, so arranged? No, gifts can be something sentimental. For example, you mentioned, I like to journal or I like to write, and someone buys you a notebook of 3,000 Uganda shillings. Oh, you mentioned the other day that you like this. That's an act of, I was actively listening to you share that you like this, and here is my contribution to it. Physical touch, and this is not just fondling, it's also hand-holding hand holding, and other forms of physical touch. Then, let's say acts of service. Acts of service. I think this is the biggest love language for people who are usually firstborns or people who a lot of people depend on. So when you say, let me run that errand for you, or let me finish that assignment for you, or let me assist you here, they're like, oh my God, you're speaking a language that I definitely understand. I feel like I've missed quality time. Yes, quality time is again the intentionality. Not that I'm just here pressing my phone. It's let's play a card game, or let's do a couple of questions, or let's go out let's take a walk casually, but you're actually spending time where you get to know more about the person, you get to understand them better, and you get to hear them. Again, social media is pushing this thing, and this is something I learned really recently, that if someone doesn't love you in your love language, they don't love you at all. And as a firm supporter of it, because my love language is gifts, so I'm like, if you've never bought me a gift, clearly you hit me. But in actual sense, again, upbringing is different. So there are people who in their homes, they're your friends, yes, they want to be your partners, yes, but at home, what's a gift? Like, it's something so, we don't know it. Like in your birthday, your parents say, hey, happy birthday, well done, thanks for coming to another age, well done. But they can love you in acts of service and say, oh, by the way, I stopped by the shop, do you want this? Or I helped you pick up your books, or something like that. Because for them, that's the only way they know how to show love. So again, as you're thinking about love, either friend, in terms of friendships or romantically, remember that you can, yes, and that people can learn how to love you in your love language, but you can also learn how to understand how people love you. I was thinking about Dr. Daniel's story about how he went to the chick and he was giving a 45-minute thing that's working you. In that moment, I'm spending time with you, I'm giving you candy, I'm filling you in. And she's like, what have you done? So maybe if she had taken the initiative to understand that, yeah, lots of things, but also you can learn this as well, which is something that he mentioned. So that's on love languages. I think none of the gentlemen shared on cutting people off, so I'll share on that as well. Guys, give people grace, give people accountability, or hold people accountable. Yeah, you can say, Nicole, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. And if Nicole shows active initiative to change how she's doing one thing, then you give her grace and let the friendship continue. You can also, something I've also learned is giving people space. Yeah, not exactly cutting them off, but understanding that in this season, this person has completely refused to change, but that doesn't mean 2 years from now when they come back into my life, I've completely blocked them out. One of my closest friends, like if you follow me on social media, you probably have seen her. I speak about her every day. We didn't talk for 2 years, but that was because in that season, we had failed to find a magic. But right now, we run a foundation together. I don't know what life would have been, but if both of us had said, we are not talking to each other again, it's never happening, then what? There's obviously toxic people, there's harmful people, but again, the world is round, you may meet them in an office. So that's what I've learned now. Yes, you can keep your distance, yes, you can put your boundaries, yes, you can give your people space. Cut people off, it really depends on the situation. situation if it's so harmful, and that also depends on people. I don't know if you asked how our friendships helped you get where you are. Can I skip that?
Yeah, you can skip that.
Okay. Red flags and green flags. Again, social media notions. They are very important though, but like everything that you see, take with a pinch of salt. But also, a red flag to me is completely different from a red flag to you, for example, because for me, I could be maybe an overly sensitive person, which I am, and you will look at it and say, really, madam? But also just learning and giving grace and giving accountability to people. But there are things that are repetitive. People who, I think my biggest red flag would be people who refuse to learn. Like you will address something, you'll discuss something, you'll share something. Please stop. Can you? This is who I am. That's where I find a red flag. But people who are like it's able to work through certain things, that's something that I see as a green flag, and those are really my basis of red flag or green flag. Again, they move to different people. Don't go to people's Instagram. TikTok is so great, it has the biggest therapists, but sometimes, don't go and say, okay, so they say this is a red flag. Immediately you hear a wind of it, you've already cancelled someone, you've not had a conversation, you've not even taken an extra day, maybe I misinterpreted how they wrote that on. Let's have another conversation. I think one of our biggest downfalls right now in society is our refusal to build and understand and integrate community values. So many community values that we are foregoing because everything is so temporary. But when you choose to work through certain things, then there's a lot more growth there. And then the final one is on how come keeping friendships with guys is much easier than keeping friendships with girls. 70, if not 85% of the people in my life are women. I think that's a horrible notion. I think it's a horrible lie we tell ourselves, especially women. I'll speak to women first before I speak to the relationship with men. The thing with female relationships with women, is we want to address things. That's the only issue. But guys, you could have taken a loan of me 1M, so you've not brought it back, we go for beer, it's kawa. You've taken my money and you've not brought it back. Why? Explain. Like, let's talk through it. If we're not going to work through it, it's fine. If we're going to work through it, then our friendship is stronger on that level. So I think that's why it's harder. That's why we think it's harder. But guys, having conversations just makes the relationship stronger and firmer. That's all I have to say. And also, if you come into a space saying, I can't be friends with women, and then I could do the smallest thing, and you've already said, Lisa, she's fake. I don't talk to her again. Really? Did you really think this through? So things like that. What I find, especially with my opposite gender relationships, even with guys, like it's much harder to be friends with them because of that Venus and Mars thing. Because with girls, I'll come and say, you know what happened? ABCD, and you'll be delusional with me. Guys just give you logical answers immediately. I'm just like, I don't want to know about that. Can we rant and finish? That's what I need to finish. So I think that's on that. I feel like for women, it's harder for us to be friends for a long period of time because our friendships have a lot more depth. It's something men are learning now, but we have, like, when you enter someone's heart, it's like a romantic relationship. A lot of us conduct our friendships like romantic relationships. Once you are inside someone's heart, it's very easy for them to hurt you. It's very easy for you to have hard conversations. It's very easy to be vulnerable. It's very easy to step on a boundary without knowing unintentionally. Also, if you don't unlearn, and a lot of people don't think about this, if you don't unlearn your past toxic traumas that you've come with and you carry them into a friendship, then that's what murkies the water. But other than that, I do think female relationships stand the test of time. So yeah.
Yes, so thank you so much. I think it's safe to say that we have now entered a relationship phases, right? The time is not on our side. So, we're introducing a relationship phase now, right? So in our generation currently, right? I talked to a group of women, and they were talking about how they rather asked me, why is it hard for guys to commit? And like, if they are committed, somehow along the way there's some sort of cheating or infidelity. So we're wondering, like, it's really a problem. Okay, we're not saying it's a problem. Okay, you are, but yes. So why is commitment almost impossible on your end?
Okay, so why is commitment? Okay, first and foremost, I don't know where that is coming from. Yeah, because it's possible, you know. I keep saying this thing of, you know, media and things that go viral. Well, they actually are not true, not founded on, you know, what is real. But I'll answer the question as it comes. Why usually it's the guys, or from the guys' end, that commitment is hard to keep. I think first and foremost, people don't have a strong why. People don't have a strong why for getting into relationships. Many times we find ourselves in a position where it's really just the webs, you know, it's really just a peer push, you know, with your boys, and then they're like, you try that girl out, go for her, and then, you know, things like that. So people don't have a strong why. For me, I find that when I understand why a relationship is important to me, I'm more willing to give it a lot. I'm more willing to give in. Then the other thing is there is something in psychology called the choice paradox. What does the choice paradox mean? Many times people go into relationships, so they commit, but then, okay, people have like a pool. So a guy has like a pool of girls, potential people that he could potentially get, and then the guy finds himself struggling, you know, to make a choice, you know, to choose out of that pool one of them. So even when someone actually chooses and makes up their mind, and they're like, you know, I'm going to date this girl, somehow there is that discontent that comes with, you know, thinking about the fact that there are many other options that they would have chosen from. There is that. The other, I think people don't understand that relationships have phases. That's the other thing that we don't understand. Not just for guys, but even for girls many times. And still, this whole social media movement, that's why I tell people, it's important to know where you're learning from. And you don't just learn consciously, you learn subconsciously. You know, as you're scrolling, you know, and looking at videos, you absorb a lot of philosophy that is twisted. So, relationships have phases. And this one, of course, applies more to ladies. This is actually more of the reasons why women might actually fail to commit. You know, initially there is that high. And you know, a guy brings his A game. The guy will give whatever it takes if he's chasing you, if he's trying to get you. Okay? And I'm sure you can relate, you've seen that. A guy will text you very often. You know, they want to take you out, they will buy you this, even when they don't have so much money on them. So, and then, usually, you know, you're excited about that, and somehow you know you consider. That's why I was saying usually when you're in that emotional high, it's hard for you to be objective in, you know, assessing this guy. So over time, you know, things sort of like flat you out. You know, relationships get to those phases where, to that point where, you know, you need effort. You need to commit. Okay? You need to like consciously, you know, put in the work to get the relationship running. So sometimes that is where we sort of like pull out, and then what makes things worse is usually these, you know, greener pastures. You know, there is someone, there is, you know, like another guy in the picture that is, and you're imagining, you know, you have this fantasy of, you know, whatever good things she might have to offer you. So we fail to understand that relationships have phases, and it's not always going to be high. So it's kind of like, it's like a rugged, you know, kind of curve. It won't always be up there, and this is a problem that media portrays. You know, film industry, you know, it portrays, you know, dating as this, you know, climax, Titanic, these guys are always on a high, there's always magnetic attraction between them. No, it's not like that. Okay? There are times you're not going to feel like texting your partner, there are times you're not going to feel like, but it is what you have to do. Then the other thing that I want to talk about is it keeps skipping my mind. So for guys, what I can say is gentlemen, and it's good that we have some gentlemen here now, because sometimes ladies, when they try to understand this, you leave the men out. Me, I tell people that one of the problems we have is not women that are. Of course, there's marginalization of ladies, but it's not the main problem. Somehow, the problem is bad boyfriends, bad husbands, men that have failed to, be leaders, men that have failed to understand themselves, men that have failed to draw their visions. Because if you find a guy that is in a relationship, and you're like, okay, where are you going with the relationship? What's your end goal with this relationship? Where are you going? So if someone doesn't have a strong why for where I'm dating, then what's the point of them giving, everything? The other thing is something called flirting. Guys, many times we claim, you've committed to this girl, you're like, I'm dating this girl. But somehow, there are things that you do in the background that actually build bridges of intimacy with other people. Okay? So if you've committed to this person, there's exclusivity in your relationship. You're like, they are the only person, that I'm going to, share emotion with, something like that. But then in the background, you still, flirt with other girls. It's just that you don't wake up one day and, you're being intimate with this woman. It doesn't happen. Okay? You build bridges of intimacy over time. So the other thing is that as guys, we need to understand that if you've delineated what you want from a relationship and you're looking at something long term, something that could lead to marriage, recognize the things that will actually lead you to the point of disrespecting your commitment. Okay? So building bridges of intimacy, as you're flirting, so you eventually find yourself, succumbing. So for me, I think those are some of the reasons why guys find it hard to commit. You flirt with other girls, and it's usually that you try to wash yourself clean, and you're like, this is just flirting, you don't lead to anything, but that's how you build bridges of intimacy. So you end up having a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, some have plan E and F. That is where it starts from. So once you commit, have a strong why. Why am I going into this relationship? If I'm looking for something long term, then I need to go all in. If it's something short term, then make it clear to the person that you're with, because it will not hurt them that much. If they know if the expectations are not met. Then when you're in and you decided to commit, be cognizant of those things that actually start to build bridges of intimacy with other people. And then leave the other choices behind. Okay? If you have 10, 20 choices, understand that you have to make your pick and make your pick well. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I recognize the presence of Doctor. Thank you for being part of us. I know someone else will recognize you better than I. So I wrote this book, We Don't Teach This at the University. We Don't Teach That at the University, Confessions of a University Dawn. And the conversations we're having today are some of the things that I share here. And I like the question that you have asked. First of all, you're asking why is it hard for men to commit? Commitment means being dedicated to the cause. But you have to finally go back and ask yourself, what do we mean by the cause? What cause are we dealing with? You see, I talk about values. Having a value system is very important because everything we do is for a specific purpose. Now, for men, we have two big choices. Either we are getting into a relationship because of money, or we are getting into a relationship because of sex, or we are getting into a relationship because of posterity. Money, I've heard of men who have clearly mentioned that I'm getting married into this woman's family because their family is rich, and that when I am in there, my life will be sorted. Actually, I had a discussion yesterday with one such wife who has walked out of a relationship, and that's what she said, you know. And if you listen to Amanonya, you hear some of these boys, they are telling you outright, blah, blah, blah. And it's unfortunate for those who don't understand Uganda. I'm looking for a wife who will look after me, who will get me a job, and will take care of my needs, financial and otherwise. The second reason why men get married or get into a relationship is because of their sex. Beautiful body, attractive, and I mean, God has blessed you ladies to look good. So, yeah, I like her, I'm attracted to her sexually, and he will be very clear from day one about what he wants, you know. And that's why you find some relationships are really based on physicality. He tells you, if you love me, have sex with me. If you don't love me, then what are we doing here? Yeah, why are we looking at each other? Let me go. And so his value system is very clear. Now then there are those who will get married because of posterity. I want a family. I want a good family. I want good children. They may have a little bit of the sex, of course, that one never runs away. I can't deceive you. I'm a father 4 times. I mean, how did you get the children? That's sex. You know, good sex at that. So, but besides the sex, the question is posterity. Posterity, what do you want to leave behind? Do you want to raise godly children? Like I said, I'm passionate about that. How do you value the family? The whole concept of the family. What is the purpose of a marriage? Before we talk about dating. I mean, when I was dating my wife while she was still in Africa, I was very clear. I said, I'm not going to move around for every Janet, Jacqueline, and Josephine. I have identified you. You're the person I want to build my home with. You know, and I was very intentional about the things that I chose. Like I told you at the beginning, you know. And I know my story is different from other people. But I remember very clearly sitting in my room and thinking carefully about what I wanted. And I decided to make a decision. I decided as a man. And for us men, we must decide at some point in time what we want. Right? So I'll tell you, because I love telling stories, I sat and started writing down what I want in a woman that I want to marry. And the other thing I wrote